Hi guys, welcome to my channel and to the worst hair day ever. Just kidding, and to my Back to Beauty No Buy Year. Today's video is my hashtag pan as old as time, pan that palette update numero uno. This is the first update for my Pan That palette for 2019. This project is in collaboration with the Pantastic Ladies on Facebook. I will have them linked down in the description box as always. So this year we are panning our oldest palette, one of our oldest palettes, and for me, in case you missed it, that is the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. For me, I'm just trying to make as much progress as possible on this palette this year. Do I think I will finish the whole palette? No. If I thought that, I would be delusional, and hopefully you guys would call me on it. But I do want to make as much progress as possible, and in my dream world, I would love to hit pan on every shade in the palette. In case you missed it, last month I had no goals for specific shades. I only wanted to use every single shade in the palette at least once, and I did accomplish that by the skin of my teeth. I did create 16 different looks with this palette this month, and I'm going to show them to you right now.
You OPN, bitch, you won't BBM. We should be closer than friends. If you OPN, engaging you's on my agenda. Request my chariot to get ya. The door's OPN. Take the high road and hop in.
So there's two pictures missing for the lookbook for this month. Lord only knows where those pictures went, but hopefully you enjoyed seeing all the looks that I created this month. I enjoyed the crap out of this project this month. The crap. I don't even know where that came from, but I truly enjoyed panning this palette this month. I felt like I really got to know it very well, and I think a lot of that was thanks to not putting a palette in my Shop My Stash for January. I just wanted to get a jump start on the palette and really get to know it better. So I do think that I did that. So let's go ahead and talk about the shades that I used the most. I did write down the shades that I used in all 16 looks, and so I went through that list and pulled out the colors that I used the most this month. Woo. The first color in the palette that I used the most this month was this shade right here called Silk Cream. This is almost a transition shade for me, and certainly can be if I build it up, but I also really like this for a blending shade. It does work for most of the shades in the palette because it's really close to my skin tone. I also think if I had to, I could use this to set my primer from brow to crease, but I've been using just a translucent powder that I'm trying to work through. And then the second shade I've been using the most this month, and hopefully you can see right here that I have made a little dent in it. This is the shade Meeks. This is a medium brown metallic or shimmer shade. I really like this, not only for the outer part of the lid, but also it works nicely up into the crease. I break all the rules, even though there are none, when it comes to makeup, and I absolutely will put a shimmer in my crease, and for me this is a perfect crease shade for, you know, a neutral kind of base to your look. So I did use that a whole lot this month, and I think I will continue to do so. It's just beautiful. In fact, let's see if I can swatch it and you can see it. And we'll go ahead and swatch Silk Cream as well. So that's Silk Cream, and this is Meeks. not great swatches, but you can see here this is very close to my skin tone, and then we have this medium brown, slightly warm metallic. The next shade that I use the most this month is this shade right here called Queen, which shocked the shit out of me because I never wear gold eyeshadow, and yet recently I've really been getting into it, and I feel like this just pairs so well with so many shades in this palette. Let me swatch it for ya. There one's out. Of course there does. Lucille wants out of the room, BRB. So again, Queen is like a mid-tone gold in my opinion, and that's what she looks like. It really worked, even though it's like a medium tone, I felt like it worked really well for a highlight shade on the inner part of my lid, like 1/3 to 1/2. So that, like I said, was the most surprising to me this month, that I used Queen a lot in a lot of looks. And then the fourth shade, there actually was a tie. There's two shades that I used kind of equally, but just right below the other three. I'm not making any sense, but the shades are this one right here called Hustle, and I would call this very taupey, but just with the tiniest little bit of a dusty plum to it. And then the other one is this shade right here called Obsessed. Hopefully you can see that there's a little dip in that one. And Hustle, I mean, there's kind of like a big dip in that one. So let me swatch those for you. Obsessed, I remember when this palette came out and Jacqueline talked about how long it took her to create that shade. And if I'm being honest, I really just don't think that it's all that special. It's kind of a pinky peach light highlighting shade. So this is Hustle. Like I said, taupey, but with just a touch of plum, and then, or even mauve maybe is a better word. And then here is Obsessed, and that is, like I said, a pinky peachy highlight shade. Nothing special if you ask me, but I did use it a lot. I found myself, it's interesting what you figure out when you're using all the shades. Like I found out that this shade Faint, even though it looks pink in the pan, it's actually quite silvery. Like it comes off more as a silver, very brilliant. So that, you know, I have determined that's more of an inner corner type thing for me. And then Obsessed is also, you know, lighter and just different than I thought it would be based on how it looks in the pan. I think this is a nice lid highlight shade as well as an inner corner highlight. So I love that I got to learn about this palette this month, and I will definitely, I'm gonna insert right here some close-ups of the palette from where I started and to where it is today, just so you can see the difference.
Open up, you open up.
So I hope you enjoyed seeing the progress on the palette from the intro to today. I mentioned in my Pan That Palette Get Ready With Me, I believe that's the video, I will link it, that I was planning on making some predictions this month on shades that I am almost certain I will hit pan on before the end of the year and or hit pan on first. So my predictions so far are Silk Cream. Like I said, this is definitely a buildable transition for me, as well as a really good blending shade for most of the shades in this palette. And then for sure Meeks, I've already made quite a dent in this one, and like I said, it's a favorite for the outer V or up into the crease. It's just my perfect crease shade in this palette. And then Hustle, I discovered this shade and how much I liked it at the beginning of January. I think I've mentioned several times over the last month or so that I'm really into taupe shadows right now, and overall more cool tone shadows. So this is one of the very true cool tone shadows in the palette, in my opinion. So I have no doubt I will hit pan on Hustle because I have to force myself to reach for other shades when it comes to this one. And then the last one, which again is a super shocker, I'm fairly certain that I'm gonna hit pan on Queen early on in the year because I've been using it a ton. I've never worn gold eyeshadow since the beginning of my channel, very, very rarely. And suddenly I love this paired with just about anything in the palette. So I'm pretty sure that Queen will be one of the shades that I hit pan on first. And then the shades that I think I had the most visible progress on this month was obviously Meeks right here, Firework right here, which again surprised me, but you'll see, as you would have seen in my lookbook, I did several rusty orange looks and I loved it. So, and then the next one obviously would be Queen. You can see some progress there right next to Firework. And then Hustle. Again, this one's harder to see, but I think as I tip it here, you can see that there's not a little dent in the middle like on Meeks. There's like a huge crater in there, which I think is kind of crazy for 1 month. So when thinking about how to set my goals for this month, I was thinking it might be smart to pick sort of some base shades that I can focus on that would be versatile for anything I might want to do on the lid in terms of colors. So I kind of picked like a transition, an inner corner brow highlight shade, an outer lid or crease shade, and a deepening shade for the very outer V and the lower lash line, just based on how I like to apply my eyeshadow. So the shades that I want to work on for February would be Silk Cream. I decided I wanted to start pinpointing or focusing on one of the two highlight shades in this palette. I'll not be multitasking this as blush, highlighter, whatever, or at least not at this point. I'm just using these as eyeshadow, and I've decided of the two shades, this is In Light, this is Beam. I'm going to focus on In Light for the month of February as my inner corner and brow bone highlight shade. And then the outer lid and crease, of course, I'm going to work on Meeks. This is perfect for me. I think it sets up just about any look that I could make in this palette. And then for my deepening shade, I actually have a little tiny dent in there already, and this is the shade Chip. And I'm going to use this as my deepening shade and my lower lash line shade for the month of February. At least that's what I'm going to concentrate on. I'm not going to neglect the rest of the palette. Those are just the shades that I'm going to reach for those specific uses when it works for me. And then I have a little story for you. Angela and I were talking on the phone one day about our Pan That palettes and how we were doing and what we were thinking about the palette, or you know, our individual palettes, and we were both talking about how we were really enjoying Pan That palette so far, but we felt like we were running into the same problem that both of us ran into last year for different reasons. Last year we ran into this problem because we were purchasing so much, but this year we are running into the same problem because we were working hard on our Pan That palette, and that is that the rest of our palettes were languishing in our collections. And that's why I did a no buy year, so that I could use what I have. But because I am so dead set on being successful with my Pan That palette this year, I haven't been using other things in my collection other than the few newer palettes that I have reviewed for you already. So Angela expressed the exact same frustration in panning her palette, and we practically at the same time, okay, this is an example of great minds think alike, and this happens to us all the time, but we both said that we were thinking about doing a series where we pair a palette with our Pan That palette. So this is what we came up with. It's going to be a new series. We'll let you know what the palettes are for the month in this update every month. And then at the end of the month, I think it's like the 24th, 25th, it will be in there. We will come back and let you know how it went, show you some looks that we created, and talk about how the palettes that we paired with our Pan That palette either helped or didn't help, or how we, you know, what the usage was like. Did we feel like it took away from panning our palettes, etc. So the series is going to be called Palette Partners, and every month we're going to pick 4 palettes to pair with our Pan That palette, one for each week. Angela and I have challenged ourselves to create at least 4 looks per week with our Pan That palette and whatever the palette partner for that week is. So for the first month, I kind of have a little theme going on here, and that is I'm going to be pairing my ABH palettes, minus the sultry, with my Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette, which is upside down. I am so excited. The number one thing that sort of haunts me and makes me feel guilty in my collection is that these 4 palettes right here are still practically virginal. And I got these a long time ago, like at the beginning of my journey in beauty over a year ago. I know and have seen and am aware of the fact that it's said that the ABH palettes don't last very long in terms of a shelf life before they start to change and things like that. So I don't want that to happen, and I am going to be using one of these each week in January, starting with the Modern Renaissance. And that is the palette that I paired with the Jaclyn Hill palette today to create this purple and gold look. And I'm loving it. So in the Modern Renaissance, just quickly, I use Bone Fresco in my crease. I used Primavera on the lid and Vermeer in the inner corner. And then from Jaclyn here, I did use the shade Royalty, and I did use, oh yeah, Soda Pop, which is a dark purple matte shade. I used that in the outer corner to deepen things up. And I love how this look turned out. So I hope you guys will be excited for the Palette Partners series, because Angela and I are beyond excited. We're finally going to get to rotate through our collection by our own choice. Angela has 4 picks for her palette partners this month, so you make sure you go over and check out her update to see which palettes she's going to be using in February. I'm so excited. I could just spit. I don't even know how to relay to you how excited I am. Like I said, I was really bummed out that I was enjoying Pan That palette so much, but that all of my other palettes were still being neglected as they were last year when I was buying stuff all the time. So that is it for my update, my first update for Pan As Old As Time, Pan That palette 2019. I hope you enjoyed seeing my progress, and I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful makeup days. And I will see you in my next video soon.